Hello everyone, my name is Artisil, and today we have another Immortal Gates of Pyre gameplay commentary. I'll be picking Orzoom, and since my last two videos have been a bit more introductory, I was hoping today I could go a bit more in-depth on strategy and exactly what I'm doing in-game, as well as perhaps what I could be doing better. So we'll get into the game here, and basically, I really like macro games, so I'm not going to do something super aggressive, and I'm just going to try and get myself an expansion here as soon as possible. So the first thing you do every game is we build a Legion Hall. And, well, some people may ask, well, why don't you just expand first? Well, because if your opponent builds a Legion Hall and you build an expansion first, your units can come out so late that it's very difficult for you to get Pyre and to keep that expansion going. And so we go with the Legion Hall first, we get some units in order to get our Pyre, and then we go for the expansion. And using that Pyre that we get from these initial units, we're able to reasonably protect our expansion. And so part of getting this Pyre in order to protect it is first we do a thing called a moat pull. And basically what we're going to do here is we're just going to use the fact that we have this initial tower right next to this creep camp in order to pull the creep camp into the tower in order to get the Pyre before we have units. And so then we take the moat that was building the Legion Hall and we send it over to collect the Pyre after that creep camp dies. And then afterwards we scout a bit with it. So here we have our units. Our Legion Hall finished building them and just sent them over here to our next camp. And send them over here to the next camp after building our expansion. And using the Pyre we got, we built a tower here. And then right here, I'm building my ether extractors. The reason I'm building them now is because I feel reasonably confident that my opponent isn't going to do something that I can't defend with, like 4 Zentari and a tower for a tower's upgrade called the Rook of Era. And I can see he has a couple units here, nothing that's really spooking me or making me think that he's going to do something ultra aggressive. And so I feel pretty okay here. Especially because I can stick these Zentari just in front of that tower until the tower finishes, and the tower will heal them up afterward, and don't have to worry too much. And so now what I really want to know is he expanding or not? And so it's entirely possible I could have been wrong about him not doing a super aggressive move. I just didn't scout here, so that probably could have gone better on my part. But I think overall it was okay because of the way it turned out. In the future, I'd probably want to scout better. So we're farming our creep camp here. And so you might ask, what if he was doing something ultra aggressive? Well, instead of taking my ether extractors, as that would normally cost about 150 alloy, instead we build the second Legion Hall first, and then we take the ether extractors afterward, when we know that it's safe and I don't have to keep building Zentari here. Still looking for expansion with the scouting moat. I'm just going around and farming camps. So at the moment there's not tons to talk about, but let me change here in a minute. So this tower is completed, the expansion's completed, and one thing about expansions in Immortal is that after you complete them, you have to upgrade them in order to get full capacity here. And so therefore I do that. And it goes from 2 to 4 to 6 maximum capacity of workers mining at it. And the reason for this is that way you don't have to decide on granularity of, like, between each worker. And so here I managed to get Pyre from this camp. And the really interesting thing about Immortal is that towers heal your units. And what this means is that you really can get infinite value out of your units as long as you're good enough at sending them back before they die. And so really, in this regard, like, the sky's the limit when it comes to your APM and how much attention you want to throw into these, because you can always be preserving another unit, which is very different from something like StarCraft, where a Zergling or a Zealot or something like that is just basically a throwaway. And so, as you can see here on the mini-map, I have a giant red blob walking into my base, and so my opponent is trying to get some damage done here. Personally, I don't think that this is really all that worth it to do 6 Dervish in order to try and get damage done like this. Because, well, when it comes to killing motes and killing workers, a whole mineral line or alloy line of motes being lost is going to be somewhere along the lines of maybe it's going to be around the lines of 1,000 alloy, assuming I only have 1 Acropolis producing. And since I have 2, it'd be more like 600 alloy, and that's counting mining time. So a mote costs 50 alloy, and you lose about 30 alloy in mining time to produce that mote again. So as a result, it ends up somewhere in the realm of like 600 alloy if he kills all of my motes. He just threw away 6 dervish and got like 2 motes here, and he didn't really get anything else out of it, so I didn't really think that was worth it. And so harass is really worth it if you could trade, like, if you can get maybe 2 Zephyrs or so. So I build 2 Zephyrs here with the hope of, hey, maybe I can go and maybe I can get more harass done here. So he's sending some more Zentari to come and harass me here. And just generally speaking, this game, a lot of harass happens. I'm really impressed with my opponent here for keeping me on my toes this entire game. And so one thing that I could be doing better here is I have a lot of Pyre. I have 375 Pyre. I could be using this way better. And, well, as you see, now we have an 8 Zephyr run by. And my army's out of position. So what I could be doing here is I could just be making towers in more places. Oh, right there, Zephyrs are not supposed to just be able to walk through a crop line. That was a bug. So don't worry about that. So one thing I could be doing is just building towers all over the map, because vision is map control. If you don't have vision, then your opponent is allowed to do whatever they kind of want to you. So if I build towers, then I get the vision, and since towers require Pyre, I'm just not using my Pyre efficiently here. So that's something to be working on, to intentionally be using this Pyre well. So I'm checking here, looking for expansions. There's literally nothing here. And well, so I back them off. I back the Zephyrs off, and I go back to farming camps. So we're transitioning to the thrones here. Now I'm looking around the other side here for Zephyr, with these Zephyrs, looking for another expansion. Well, here I find a fully saturated moat line, and I'm trading 2 Zephyrs for a whole moat line, and this is definitely worth it. Meanwhile, he's doing some multi-pronged harass here. He gets a lot of he's gonna get a lot of damage with this. You got my whole moat line. Got the moat line up there. So if you're not paying attention and you're not ready for things like this, this is the kind of stuff where a really good player will kill you with it. Do note though that he is throwing away a lot of resources in order to get this harass. and I have had the economy to rebuild it. And so what this has led to is I kind of have a superior army right now, even though he's gotten more harass off. Yeah, you can see that here come the Zephyrs. And what I really need to be doing better here is I need to have units in position immediately, or I need to wall off or something like that in order to prevent Zephyr harass like this from happening. And I'm just not doing that. So we upgrade this to a Rook, because Rooks here are extremely scary. And going back to trying to resaturate my bases. And see, so right here, that's another, with that tower right there, that's another really good example of my opponent using vision in order to get the advantage on me here. Like that tower does two things that he built right there. One, it prevents me from building a tower there. Two, it taxes my attention. And three, it only costs really 50 Pyre in order for him to do that. And so as a result of him taking that, I now have to put units on that side of the map. He has full information and is able to know if I go over there. And so therefore, in order for me to deal with it effectively, I have to go all the way over there with enough units to kill it, but not so much that he's able to just gut one of my bases, which is... it's a bit on the difficult side. Although I do have towers, so as long as I'm positioned correctly, it shouldn't be too bad. And so now I've had a decent economy. My opponent has been doing all this harass, but I've been able to recover for it, and apparently he hasn't been expanding so much behind it. And so, as a result, well, lots of harass, but we seem to be about equal, only I have a tech advantage. I have more Angel Ariums, and therefore I am able to build more thrones at a time than maybe he is able to. And this, as a result, means that I get a lot of thrones out compared to him. Also note that the rate of which I am building thrones is not final. I'm not supposed to be able to build 2 of them at a time, but this is a slightly older build, and they have since been nerfed. So this would do. We're not going to be producing carrier analogs 2 at a time, fortunately, in later builds and later videos. So the mid game should go for a bit longer. And so one thing that's really interesting about Immortal is just like how important map control is. Because if your opponent has the map control, like, they're just able to abuse you like this. And however, what's really interesting to me is not necessarily the map control itself, but the things you can do in order to punish map control. And so, if you have map control, you want to maintain that map control, and you want to take that, and you want to be able to punish the enemy for controlling additional areas of the map, while preventing them from taking control of the ones you currently have. And this is what this tech advantage lets you do. It lets me push them away from certain areas on the map. And as I was talking about before, I needed to bring my army down there in order to kill that tower, and now he's able to do this. And so information is extremely crucial in this game, and whatever way you can get that pays dividends. So these Zephyrs managed to get away, unfortunately. And because of this tower and this information I got, I was able to say, you know what, I'm going to start splitting my army. So this is one thing that I was learning over the course of the game, is like, all right, how do I play against this extreme multi-pronged style and not take this much damage while doing it? Well, I can split off a couple thrones up here, and then I can go back down to the southern part of the map, And that's what that dervish down there is that he put down there. And we'll see in a second. You can see it on the minimap. That's what that's there for, is to provide him with extra information. And it was there to put up that tower. So now I have to deal with this tower. However, this time, I'm not being picked apart because I learned, alright, I have to put thrones on the top side of the map here in order to protect this space. And at this point, like, he's just not transitioned into an army that's able to fight thrones. And so the old idea of like, well, you have to be able to kill your opponent's army as well in order to kill them. Not just the economy, you have to kill the army as well. That definitely still applies in Immortal. It definitely just applies. More information by placing a tower down there. Thrones there to prevent him from stopping it from going up. Here we have a little bit of a throne bait. That I didn't capitalize on it nearly as well as I should have because that pillar was not in the right position. But here we have Sharu, and this is kind of the point where he's not really able to fight my army. Like if he gets a good concave and he has good micro, he can fight thrones with Dervish. But if I have Sharu, he's not really able to fight. And this is where I take the fight to him instead of being harassed to death. Well, I'm gonna go make sure he's not able to. We can go try it in the game now with this advantage that I've accrued in army size over time. Kill a base, cast Tempests on his Dervish, and this is kind of where the game ends. One Castigator is not enough to deal with this many Thrones and Shard. So just one point that I want to make is like this game I felt like was an extremely good representation of the amount of learning that you can do in a match throughout a game of Immortal. When you get harassed and you lose a whole worker line, the game isn't necessarily over until you reach really high levels. And as a result, well, you just have a lot more chances in a game of Immortal to try things and to learn and to become a better player. And I really like that about the game design that they have going here. Anyway, if you enjoyed this content, let me know in your comments, like, maybe subscribe, because while I may not care about the YouTube algorithm, and you may definitely not care about it, the YouTube algorithm decides to support people that have an audience as per those metrics. So if you'd like to support me, that would be appreciated. If you didn't like this if you didn't like this content, then please let me know what I can do to improve it, and that'd be much appreciated. So, love you all. Thank you for all the support, and see you in the next video.